Hi, I'm Carolyn James. This video is for people who use Google Tag Manager for tracking website events and conversions. GTM is a tool that can easily swallow up a lot of your time if you haven't got something quite right. No GTM job is exactly the same as the last one. Often I'll need to do some research or I'll go down a wrong path at first. In this video, I've included 10 pitfalls that I want to avoid in the future. I hope that by sharing some of the things I have learnt, I might save a little bit of time for someone else. Number one is bad naming conventions. If you've got a lot in your GTM container, bad naming conventions will make it difficult to find what's there. On the other hand, if you have a systematic way of naming your tags, triggers, and variables, it'll be a lot easier to make sense of the container. So the methods that I have learnt for naming are for tags. I always prefix the tag name with an abbreviation of the destination platform. So GA for Google Analytics, GA4 for Google Analytics 4, and GAds for Google Ads, and so forth. For variables, I prefix the variable name with an abbreviation of the variable type. So you would use DLV for a data layer variable and CJS for a custom JavaScript variable, and so on. Triggers I do a little bit differently. I find it easiest to name the trigger based on the website action that fires it. So I would call a trigger contact form submission or email link click, and so on. Number two is using multiple tags when one tag would do. Fewer tags in your container makes for a more streamlined container that's easier to maintain. So situations where you can use one tag to track multiple website actions when there are variations on the same kind of action. For example, downloading several PDFs or clicking on various email address links, or perhaps clicking on various sales pages. So what you need to do here is set up a trigger that fires for all of the situations. So your trigger might need to be a little bit more complex. It might say need a regular expression within it. And then when you set up your tag, you will send a variable in one of the fields. So possibly this will be in the label field in Google Analytics or as a parameter in GA4. So then you'll set up this variable, possibly using something like a regular expression lookup table so that it identifies separately the different variations on the situation and sends an appropriate label. So in this example that I'm showing you here, my variable is a regex table and based on the click URL, and then my trigger also includes a regular expression to specify the different click URLs when it needs to fire. Number three is lack of planning for your category, action, and label fields. That's in Universal Analytics. In GA4, it would be parameters. When we send event tags to Google Analytics, we can send additional data as category, action, and label. It's best to plan these up front, thinking about all the events you want to track across your website, and think about the downstream reporting that you might want to do in a tool such as Google Data Studio. You'll depend on this data that you send with the tags in order to select and filter to create meaningful reports. Drawing a diagram might help to devise a system that can apply across all events across the website. Think about what are the high-level logical groupings that you might want in reports, what are the mid-level groupings, and what do you want to differentiate at a granular level. In GA4, there are no category, action, and label. Instead, you have parameters, but the same thing applies. You need to think about them up front, think about the reporting you want to do, how you want to select and filter the data, and then plan out your parameters. 4. Check the advanced settings when using a regex table variable. The regular expression table variable is really useful for differentially populating the label field of an event tag for different variations of the same event. However, there are two settings that are hidden under advanced settings that you'll need to watch out for. Highlighted in this screenshot, they are full matches only and enable capture groups and replace functionality. They're ticked by default. In most situations, you'll need to untick these two boxes in order to get the result you're looking for. Number 5. If you've been asked to track clicks on phone numbers or email address links, insist that these are clickable links before you start your work. Then you'll be able to make your trigger more precise. I generally use a click URL trigger. Don't go down the path of starting with a click text trigger, as this could turn out to be imprecise. Number 6. Writing a click trigger condition statement that starts with click elements contains. Sometimes you will need to use click elements in your triggers because there's nothing else to use, but click elements contains doesn't work. In this case, your condition statement needs to use a CSS selector. Number 7. Sloppy element visibility triggers. Element visibility triggers are handy for form submission tracking when a success message appears on the same page, rather than the user being redirected to a thank you page. But they need to be precise. I do these 3 things to ensure the element visibility trigger uniquely identifies the form submission and doesn't fire in other circumstances. 1. I add a condition that specifies the page where the success message appears. 2. I'll be using a CSS selector in this trigger, so I go to the Developer Tool console and use Document Query Selector All to check that the CSS I'm using in the trigger only exists once on that page and in the particular element that I'm tracking. And 3. I test that the trigger doesn't fire before the form is submitted or on an attempted submission of the form with validation errors. Number 8 is not recognizing that the click you're trying to track involves 2 hierarchical elements. When you're setting up a click trigger, inspect the element to see whether there are in fact 2 elements, one a child of the other. For example, a button and button text, and the click might occur on either of these. To track clicks that can be made on either the parent or child element, use a wildcard trigger. This is a click element trigger, so it uses a CSS selector. In this example, this trigger will fire on clicks on the telephone number link or clicks on any element that's a child or descendant of that element. The selector, when written this way, matches the link element that has this href attribute and any descendants of that link element. Number 9, cross-domain tracking. Don't proceed without first understanding the scenario that you're dealing with. There are 4 standard requirements for cross-domain tracking in Universal Analytics. 1. Both domains should be tracked to the same Google Analytics property. 2. The domain that's the source in the cross-domain navigation needs to be recorded in auto-linked domains. Now that might be both domains if you can navigate there and back. You'll usually set in the Google Analytics setting variable. 3. The domain that's the destination in the cross-domain navigation needs to have allow linker set to true. Again, that might be both domains, and it's usually done in the GA settings variable. Number 4, any domain that's the source in the cross-domain navigation should be included in the referral exclusion list. But these 4 rules don't apply in every situation. For example, if the user crosses into another domain and then returns, and you have no tracking code in that other domain and no need to track what goes on there, then the only requirement is to add that other domain into the referral exclusion list. Another example is when the method of navigation across the domains is not a link. If it's a form submission or an iframe, then the solution won't be so straightforward. It'll need to be customized for that scenario. So don't get started or estimate the effort for a cross-domain tracking task until you've looked closely at the particular scenario. Number 10 is forgetting to publish the container. Okay, this might seem like a beginner mistake, but it can still happen, and it's a mistake that you want to avoid. You might have done everything perfectly, but unless you publish the container, it's not going to work. My only advice here is to create yourself a checklist of the tasks that you need to do and cross these off as you complete them. One of these tasks will be publish the container. In this video, I've covered 10 Google Tag Manager pitfalls that I want to avoid in the future. I love what GTM can do, but it can certainly eat into your time while you're still learning the nuances. I hope that at least one of these tips turns out to be a time saver for you. And let me know in the comments if there's something different that you've found difficult about GTM. If you're looking for some help, I offer Google Tag Manager services, including implementation of analytics, conversion tracking, and troubleshooting of existing containers.